to Crystal Palace. Now, Unai Emery handed Kieran Tierney his first Premier League start, one of 3 changes to the Arsenal side. Lacazette returning from injury and Dani Ceballos restored to the Arsenal midfield. As for Crystal Palace, just the one change, Andros Townsend coming in for Jeffrey Schlupp. And again, this was a London derby. We were expecting a lot from it, and it was quite eventful.
It delivered. Crystal Palace all of a sudden from absolutely nowhere are a competent side now in the Premier League. Sokratis gets a great goal at the near post. I'd like to see this one back again because I thought there was a push from Lacazette on MacArthur at the near post, which I don't think the referee spotted, or I might be wrong. And at this point you think David Luiz gets the second, both centre-half score, and you think maybe at this point Arsenal are going to be flying and will have more than enough for Crystal Palace.
It was VAR again though that got itself involved, didn't it? I mean,
penalty?
I think just.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I do think he's slightly over-exuberant with his, you know, with the way he's gone down with Zaha, but I think Chambers' leg comes out and he's well within his rights to go over it, and he a bit like what Mane did, really. You know, he uses the ability to go over, and so the penalty was right. I agree with that. It was a penalty. I mean, Milivojevic, you just don't miss, does he? It's as simple as that. But I mean, if you keep your eye on David Luiz here, you've got one job. Just mark your man. Just keep your eye on your man. He's ball watching, gets done at the back post, and you know, Palace are a threat going forward, and they deserve to get themselves back into the game. But this is where it just went a little bit weird for me.
Yeah, Milivojevic is the one that hits the floor. Very, very hard to see because
it's like a tangling of the legs, isn't it? Apparently.
Yeah, but just still, beforehand, the original foul looked as though it came from Milivojevic on Callum Chambers, which they seemed to allow to play on. Then all of a sudden, Milivojevic hit the floor. And I agree with Jermaine. I think it was a tangle of legs are coming together.
I don't see how you can overturn that decision to be a goal, personally. And that is our issue, our gripe at the minute with VAR. It's like you have this opportunity to just take as much time as you need to get it right, and there's been too many that's been got wrong, even this weekend. Defenders
are not learning. Well, Will Zaha, the trickiest man in the Premier League, and Callum Chambers gets himself square on. You can't even attempt to foul him because he's probably got more natural ability than anyone in the Premier League. He's the trickiest player. And he gets any fullback. That's Seamus Coleman, who's been done 3 or 4 times. You've just got to hold your hands up, get yourself side on and try and shove them towards the byline. Do not dive in. OK, well, I think it's a perfect moment to bring in Dermot Gallagher, former Premier League referee. He is in the match centre for us, and he always gives us a great insight into the ins and outs of the games. And we know that VAR has intervened, as we've seen a lot this weekend, having been criticised initially. So it got involved 7 times, having overturned some big decisions. And Dermot joins us right now. Hello, Derm.
Hi, Seema. How you doing?
Very well. Nice to see you smiling, Derm. So, look, Derm, we've been talking about this high bar, and I think it's fair to say that there's been a lot of criticism about the fact that VAR hasn't been involved and overturned decisions that maybe it should have. But now we've suddenly seen 7 overturns. So has a conversation been had?
I think what's happened, Seema, is in the 2 4-week blocks, they've met and they've reflected on things, and they've looked back on incidents, said we should have intervened there, we didn't. And I think this weekend we've seen the result of that. You know, we look back at the Lerma David Silva one, for example, the Alderweireld penalty last week, the Vertonghen penalty last week at Watford, the Tielemans tackle. So we've seen incidents where they've looked back and reflected and said we should have done. And I think this week they've gone out and they have intervened a little bit more. But what I would say is it's positive, isn't it? The interventions have been positive. They've given decisions that we didn't see before, but we think should have been given. Example being the penalty, the red card for Bertrand. You know, that was a very positive decision. First red card given by the VAR.
I mean, do you honestly think that all the decisions have been positive, though, Dermot? Because if you actually look at, say, for example, today, the Norwich penalty that was given, that I don't see how that's a positive. Me personally, and the only reason why I say that is because, again, it's the, you know, if the referee gets this wrong, I'm more willing to kind of hold my hand up. But for VAR to get it wrong when you get the chance to slow it down and look at it, it's just very hard to take, I think, for players and managers.
Jermaine, I don't think it's a penalty. I'm with you. I don't think it's a penalty. But what I'm saying is, before this weekend, we'd had 2 decisions overturned. They were both for fouls on goalkeepers in 90 matches. This weekend, we've seen 7 decisions intervened by the VAR. I don't think they've got them all right, as I said. But what I will say, at least they're starting to make decisions that people wanted. What will happen again in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, they will reflect again and say, well, have we pitched a little bit too low? should we have intervened on this? Yeah. But what you would say, at least they are moving forward. You know, it's not what it was on week 1 and saying, well, we're going to go to week 38 just to be consistent.
So has the bar dropped then, Don, would you say? Sorry, Don, Dermot, with regards to the this threshold that you've been talking about throughout the start of the season?
I'm not sure it's dropped. I think what's happened is they've looked at incidents, as I say, I quoted the 3, and said, well, we definitely should have given a different decision there. I think what you've seen this weekend is similar incidents. So they've gone in and they've said, well, we said we were going to give this. We said we were going to give a red card for Tielemans. Now we've seen the tackle by Bertrand. We've given a red card. You know, if you'd have continued like they were from week 1, Bertrand wouldn't really have had a red card because it would have fell into the same bracket as Tielemans if they hadn't decided to reflect and take action.
So, match week 10, do you see it's all positive, or we've all got to do a little bit more learning and give VAR a chance to evolve towards the end of the season and obviously improve it for the start of next season? I know it's a million miles away, but everything seems to be getting better of late.
Yeah, I think match week 10, match week 11 and 12 and onwards, Don, we've got to learn every week. We've got to, it's no good waiting a long period of time and saying, well, what happened in that block? It's got to be an ongoing thing. There is a discussion at the end of every weekend and said, you know, how do we feel this has gone? What do we think we can reflect on? What can we learn from? And that's, the referees meet every 2 weeks and that's acted on, and I think that's the best way forward.
Thank you very much, Derm, for chatting to us. We always value your insight.
Thanks,
Seema.
Seema.
Very soon. OK, we're back to the London derby, and let's get some reaction from the managers now, Roy Hodgson and Unai Emery.
Well, Unai, is the right word for the end of that game confusion?
Even I didn't understand the referees and the VAR reaction. For example, last week we received one penalty, very clear. Didn't check in the VAR, that's what we were drawing. Okay, but with respect. 2 weeks ago we received here one penalty more clear than today to Pepe. Well, the last matches here against Bournemouth. Didn't check, okay? It's perfect. This is the way they decided, and today they check all. And they check all, but our goal, the first goal, I don't understand why he didn't concede it. Okay, but we can speak about that. But you asked me first that confusion. For me, it's not confusion. It's not good decision. And then is the match. But the match is very conditioned for that. That's a decision for the referee and for the VAR. And then we deserve to win. And I think a very good reaction after they draw. And the player, very good attitude. We created chances to score again the third goal. We scored the third goal, and it was a good goal, but then they didn't concede it.
Another afternoon where we've seen VAR in full effect. You get the penalty because of a VAR review. I think we saw your face when it wasn't given in the first place. So good use of it there.
Yes, I mean, I'm glad for Martin as well, because otherwise, if it hadn't have been, you know, if in the pre-VAR days that penalty hadn't been given, and then he'd have had a chance maybe to see it on the television, and all the pundits would have seen it on the television, everyone would have said, oh, that's a very clear penalty, because I thought, even though I'm quite a long way away, I thought that was a very clear penalty. So I was pleased that got overturned to make it 2-1 for us. And then, of course, we got another VAR decision which went our way at the end. But, you know, there was a lot of, you know, pushing going on in the box, so I'm pleased that the referee was able to correct his initial decision, and we got the 2-2, which I think we deserved overall.
So for the second time this season, Arsenal have thrown away a 2-goal lead. We saw what happened last weekend against Sheffield United. I think the fans wanted to see a bit of a reaction today, but again, they just walked away with the 1 point. Where do we assess Arsenal? Where are they at the moment?
Same place they've been for probably the last about 4 or 5 years. So I mean,
It is.
It's one of those things of Arsenal where I think it's starting to boil away at Arsenal in that stadium again. You're starting to sense the frustration. They look susceptible to be conceding goals on a regular basis. I don't think their fans trust their players to be able to see out a result. They don't expect to go to places like Sheffield United and get a win. And that's where they've been for a number of years now. And what that is down to is difficult to put your finger on. I think some of the purchases they've made have not been great. They've not really focused enough on the defence and almost that solid type of midfield as well. So it makes them soft at times to be able to get at. And teams like Crystal Palace and Sheffield United are the type of teams that will really poke away and find that soft centre and exploit it.
And what about from Palace's perspective? It was a good point for them.
Great point. All of a sudden they're looking like a very good side home and away. You always know when you watch Crystal Palace they're a better side on the road because they've got counter-attacking players. But they're looking a lot more solid. Normally when you watch Crystal Palace against the big sides, you never really fancy them. I'm talking years ago. This season they've had a good start. They've got confidence. And it's not the biggest squad in the world. It's not the most blessed squad in the world in terms of loads of talent and loads of world-class players. But they're very well organised under Roy.